Good evening, everyone. I'm Riley King, and welcome to the Riley King Newscast, right here on the Riley King Network. Let's begin. First up, juvenile charged with second-degree murder and death of Madison woman. 42-year-old victim identified. A juvenile has been charged with second-degree murder in the death of a 42-year-old Madison woman. Police found Melissa Hatchett dead at a home at 15 Bergdorf Drive about 6:40 Friday night, officials announced in a press release. The juvenile was then arrested on second-degree murder charge. Officials said they could not provide any additional information about the juvenile charged because that person is a minor. An autopsy is set to be performed on Hatchett on Sunday to determine the exact manner of her death. Former U.S. Rep. Hodges joins Marianne Williamson campaign as top advisor director. Former U.S. Rep. Paul Hodges is now leading the New Hampshire presidential campaign of spiritual lecturer and author Mary Ann Williamson. As reported on Twitter earlier Sunday, Hodges will serve as senior campaign advisor and New Hampshire state director for Williamson's presidential campaign. Hodges served 2 terms in the U.S. House, elected in 2006 and re-elected in 2008 when he was a campaign co-chair for future President Barack Obama. Hodges was defeated in a U.S. Senate bid in 2010, but remains an influential Democrat and hosts a radio program. Manchester convenience store robbed at gunpoint, police say. Let's take a listen to this video.
If you're seeing this ad, that means you can get home heating oil for the lowest price available in your area. From Rhymes Propane and Oil. Reliable service and the lowest oil prices guaranteed. Rhymes, serving your energy needs for over 40 years. Learn more at rhymes.com. Manchester police looking for the man who robbed a convenience store at gunpoint tonight. Police say he threatened the clerk with a gun and demanded cash at the 61 Market on Maple Street around 6:45. The suspect left with an unknown amount of money. He's described as a white male, about 20 to 30 years old, about 5 feet 8 to 5 feet 10 tall. Anyone with information should call Manchester PD.
Okay, and there you go on that video. Anyone with information, call the Manchester Police Department. Republican William Weld announced launch of Presidential Exploratory Committee. Let's take a listen to this video.
We're Rhymes Propane and Oil, and no one beats us. No one has a lower price on home heating oil in your area than we do. But if another company does, we'll beat their price. If you can see this ad, we can service you. Rhymes, meeting your energy needs for over 40 years. Learn more at rhymes.com. This is a great place. A Republican challenger to President Donald Trump is stepping forward. At a Politics and Egg speech in Bedford, former Massachusetts Governor Bill Weld announced he's forming an exploratory committee for a 2020 presidential campaign.
Our president is simply too unstable to carry out the duties of the highest executive office in the land.
Weld tells News 9 he's been studying up on New Hampshire primary challenges to sitting presidents. McCarthy in 68, Reagan in 76, Kennedy in 80, Buchanan in 92. None ultimately succeeded in their campaigns, but the presidents they took on either bowed out of contention or lost in November.
You know, they all had an impact.
Weld ran on the Libertarian Party ticket for vice president in 2016. Top Republicans are already questioning his allegiance to the GOP.
Is this somebody who's just coming in here, not as a Republican, but just as a spoiler? I don't know. But I have to really question his integrity and his credentials as a Republican.
Weld brushes off the criticism, saying he wants to take on Trump. And that means, in his words, not dribbling around the court, but driving right to the hoop.
But I've been a Republican my whole life, unlike, I might say, Donald J. Trump, who's been a New York City Democrat almost all of his life. He's been a Republican about as long as he's been president of the United States.
And you can watch our full interview with Governor Weld on Close Up Sunday morning on 10 a.m. right here on WMUR. Adam Sexton, WMUR, News 9.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. They love New Hampshire. Candidates crowd into Granite State a year before first in the nation primary. Let's take a listen to this video from WMUR News 9.
How protect what's most important? With our family of safety technologies. The 2019 Nissan Rogue with Safety Shield 360 tech, like automatic emergency braking with pedestrian detection. Experience Rogue today. Shop ChooseNissan.com.
Democrats will dominate the campaign trail. New York Senator Kirsten Gillibrand is back. Stopping for a song in Concord before a weekend of visits, including Dartmouth, where she graduated. New Jersey Senator Cory Booker will spend 3 days Manchester to Portsmouth, North Conway to Nashua. Also expected on the trail over the long weekend, Senators Kamala Harris from California and Amy Klobuchar from Minnesota, her first visit since declaring in the snow. Hawaii Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard, South Bend, Indiana Mayor Pete Buttigieg, and author Marianne Williamson. The lone Republican, former Massachusetts Governor Bill Weld, announced in Bedford he's forming an exploratory committee to challenge President Trump.
I think our country is in grave peril, and I cannot sit any longer quietly on the sidelines.
Well, I think you have a really large field and a lot of candidates who aren't terribly well known, and so they need to get themselves out there. They need to present themselves to voters.
St. Anselm College professor Chris Galdieri says they all need to prove they're viable presidential candidates and remind voters it's time to start studying.
This is one of those fields where waiting until the weekend before the primary is sort of like cramming for a final exam the night before the test.
This will be the only President's Day between now and the primary, the unofficial tentative date set for February 11th next year. In Concord, Gene Mackin, WMUR News 9.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Police identify 5 victims killed in Illinois' workplace rampage. A man who is being let go from his job at a manufacturing business went on a shooting rampage at his workplace in Illinois, killing 5 people dead and 5 officers injured. Police identified the gunman as 45-year-old Gary Martin, an employee of the Henry Pratt Co., which makes values for industrial press in the city of Aurora, about 40 miles west of Chicago. Police Chief Kristen Ziman said Officers arrived within 4 minutes of receiving reports of the shooting and were fired upon as soon as they entered the 29,000 square foot manufacturing warehouse. Martin was killed in a shootout with police. If you want to read more, we will be sure to provide this link in a link for you on the Riley King Network Facebook page. And now let's read some national and world news. U.S. military plane lands near Venezuela border with aid. The U.S. military airlifted tons of humanitarian aid to a Columbine town on the Venezuela border Saturday as part of an effort meant to undermine Socialist President Nelson Mandela and back his rival for the leadership of South American nation. And that is it for the Riley King Newscast, right here on the Riley King Network. I hope you all have a great rest of your Saturday night, and I'll see you back here tomorrow for another newscast. And I'll have a news report coming up in a little bit. Good night, everyone. Bye.